I'm back with another opinion on a compact camera, and this time it's the Canon S120. I'm not going to do a full sort of review type of thing on this because there's plenty of those out there. I'm just going to show you some of the things that I've noticed that I like about this, and a couple things I've noticed that I don't like about this. A couple notes about the design. You can kind of see here they've kind of rounded off all of the corners. Now that's not something that I am a fan of particularly, but it's something that they did. It makes it a bit different looking than the S110. I prefer the S110 had more square lines, square corners. It had just a more square look to it, and that's what I prefer personally. They've also rounded all the buttons on the back. I believe the 110 had, the 110 had flat buttons at the back, I think. And these buttons are round, which is not a big deal. They've also made the power button a lot larger. Now that is a small thing. I'm sure it sounds like a small thing, but I found that when I was using the 110, I had the 110 temporarily when I was going on a couple trips, and the power button was very small and it was very close to the shutter button, so I found, I guess because I was used to another camera at the time, when I was going for the power button I kept hitting the shutter button by accident. So the power button's still fairly close to the shutter button, but the power button's a lot larger now, and it's sort of recessed under the surface of the camera, and so that's kind of nice. They've added a silver accent ring on the black model, obviously, around the base of the lens, and that's okay. Personally, I prefer just all black without that, but it's not too bad. And then on the top, you'll notice you can see the texture is kind of like a crinkle. You see this on a lot of cameras, like a crinkle texture to the paint. And then, but on the top here, you see a seam here, and then on the very top there's like a plate that's a different texture. It's got lines in it. Another little thing that they've added is the mounts for the strap. It used to be just a small round strap mount. A lot of compacts have that, but now they have a mount. You can mount a flat strap right on the camera on both sides, so you can have a, like a Canon G series style strap. You can get it if you want and mount it right on here without any little adapters. Like the RX100 comes with little adapters to adapt the round straps to a flat strap, and then that's, like an extra little dongle that's hanging off the camera. And then on here there's a good door, it's easy to open and shuts well. And then here is a flash pop-up, and there's another nice thing I like about the flash. I'll show you in a moment, but one thing I will say is when you're holding the top of the camera, so you're going to take a picture like this, the flash does sort of, I don't know how much you can see it, it sort of goes down a few millimeters at least when you press. So I found that the first few times I tried to take a picture with this, I was holding like this and I was pressing down on the flash at the top, and it just felt a little funny. So that's not a huge deal, but it's just something I noticed. And then on the S110, the little pad here was not, it looks like rubber, it has the same sort of texture as the one on the RX100, but the one on the RX100 is actually rubber. This one it's just plastic that has a texture on it like rubber, but it's not grippy like rubber, and this is the same way. The one on the 110 had sort of a more smoothed out little ridge here. This one just has like a squared off ridge, but that's pretty much the same sort of thing. I think the buttons, looking at a picture from the 110 now, the buttons are the same layout, yes, but they're just more round, as I mentioned. The camera's still made in Japan, which is a good point. And I commend Canon for doing that, because Sony, with the RX100 Mark II, moved to China. And you can see the RX100 Mark II is made in China now. And a lot of cameras are made in China. That are the Ricoh GR is made in China, the Lumix GM1 made in China, and those are all $7.99. So it's really nice to see a camera that's only $3.99 or $4.50 when it's first out to be made in Japan. And you see it has a steel tripod mount, which I think they've all had it, or at least the last S100, 110 have all had a steel tripod mount. Battery door still opens the same way, still has a steel reinforcement there. It doesn't leave the camera running when you open the door the way that the Sony does. It still shuts off the camera when you go to open this door. So say you're going to take a picture and you're holding it like this, maybe you accidentally slide out that door, it shuts the camera down. On the RX cameras, the Sonys, when it's on, you can go ahead and open the battery door and it doesn't shut off the camera. So I prefer the Sony way, where it doesn't shut off the camera. And I believe there's still no charging via USB cable, but to sort of make up for that, they do include a standalone battery charger. And this one you can see is a nice gray, which I like a lot, actually. It's just a small thing, it's a silly thing, but I like when they sort of deviate from the norm and just give you something a little different. So usually you get a black charger or a navy blue, dark blue charger, or even a dark gray charger, but now they're giving you a nice light gray charger, and I think it's great. See, I had to buy a separate standalone charger from Sony. It was like $60 So it's nice that Canon throws in a standalone charger, again, for a camera that's half the price, or just over half the price of the Sony. Now, I want to say a couple things about the ring, the zoom ring at the front. Now, a lot of people like the increments that you get. You can hear it. And I agree, those are nice when you're using it for step zoom. The ring on the Sony, you see it doesn't have the increments, but the Sony ring has something else that I think is nicer even, because it has sort of an oiled, weighty, really high quality feel to it. So when you turn it, it really feels like it's gliding on oil, and the ring feels very good, even though it doesn't have increments like the Canon ring has. So I think that the Sony ring is nicer to turn. On this Canon ring, when you turn it, it doesn't feel like there's any oil in there. It feels like it's just two pieces sliding together. And it only slides well when you use two fingers, one on each side, like this. When you go to do, say you wanted to just do one quick notch of zoom and you want to just do it with one finger, like I often do, you get a lot of resistance when you try to turn it with only one side of the ring. like this. And it just doesn't feel very good at all. So I think that this ring is kind of not as nice as the Sony one anyway. On the Sony camera it always goes back to 28mm when you turn the camera off. If you were zoomed in and then you turn it on again, it'll go to 28mm, the widest. One thing I started noticing with the 110 and now with this 120, I turned it off. I was zoomed in from when I was showing the ring clip, and then it goes back to, I don't know if it will do it this time, because that was the second time I turned it off, zoomed in at that point. Yeah, see, it goes back to where you were zoomed in now. I don't know if there's a setting where you can turn that on or off, but I thought that was nice back when I was using it. But I'm not sure if I prefer it going back to the widest or if I prefer it going back to where you were zoomed in. But either way, that's the way it is. At least by default, there might be a setting for it. Now, on the other video for the 110, some people were asking if you can use the touch for shutter, and according to this menu setting you can. It's off by default, but you can turn it on. And by default you touch where you want the focus point to be, and then you use the shutter button to take the picture. So I'm not sure how it works when the screen is touched. So I guess that's instead of just focusing when you touch the screen, it takes the picture. So that's neat. I can see people using that and enjoying that. There's also peaking. I didn't notice that in the 110. It might have been there, but manual focus peaking. ISO settings. I'm not sure what the default maximum for the 110 is, but I think it was still 1600. A lot of the cameras that I had that were a bit older, like the PowerShot G12, the maximum ISO was 1600. And you could manually force it to do a bit more, like 3200, but now the maximum is 3200, and you can bring it all the way up to 12,800, which, to be honest, is pretty terrible. 12,800 is surprisingly good on the RX100 Mark II, but it's really not good on this, unfortunately. Obviously the sensor is smaller and everything, but anyways, the default ISO is 3200 now. It used to be 1600 on some of the older PowerShots. Noise reduction you can do high, medium, low. Wind filter, this is something I haven't noticed before as well. You can put it to auto, off and auto. You can do custom display. There's 2 screens now. There used to be, I think there used to be 3. There used to be 3 and a blank one. And now it's just 2. And then night display. This is something that you see on GPS units. I haven't noticed it before in PowerShot cameras, but you can do night colors, which is nice. I like it. You can do function menu layout, which is nice. You know, when you press the function menu, you get a bunch of settings. You can go through here and uncheck the ones you don't want. And of course, there's things like Face ID. You can set the function of the record button, and you can set the function of the ring function button. When you go to the image stabilization, you get dynamic IS 1 and 2, and I'm not really sure what the difference is between the two. So mute, I always put mute on. Date and time, it still uses military time. The Sony camera uses the normal time for the layout, which I prefer. Time zone, lens retract, eco mode, power saving, LCD brightness. There's no auto brightness on this that I can see here. It's just the normal 4-5 settings rather. But I find the auto brightness to be annoying on the Sony anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. You can do off, startup image, you get 2. I don't think it, if you go to none, I don't think it shortens the startup time at all, but that's okay because the startup time is actually really fast on this. It's faster than the RX 100, certainly. And so are all the menus. I don't know if I showed you, but when you're trying to jump up and down on the menus, like just like this, go up and down fast, the menus on this are faster than the RX 100 ones. On the RX 100, when you try to go up and down fast, at least on, I found that on the first section of menus, the response time is actually slower when you're trying to scroll up and down on the menus, and then on the other parts of the menu, it's actually faster, which doesn't make any sense to me, but anyway, so this is just various things. Touch. So you can turn touch completely off if you want. If you don't, there's a full set of buttons here. Same with the S100 had no touchscreen and it just had this full set of buttons. So if you don't like the touch, you can turn it off. Personally, I think that it's good. I think that the touch on this is very close to something like a smartphone in terms of the responsiveness. And you can also do touch response, standard and high. And then Wi-Fi settings. I've never tried the Wi-Fi yet, but I'm sure it works fine. See, touch is neat because you can do this. You can scroll up and down, and you can hit an image and then do this. Same with an iPhone. And you see it, the responsiveness is good. I think you can do that. Double tap to zoom out. So pinch in, double tap to zoom out, and then pinch to scroll. One last thing I want to show you, because this is the thing that I've noticed myself as being annoying sometimes. When you go to the flash on, well, first of all, you can see here you can adjust it with the front ring. On the Sony, when you go to turn the flash on, you can't adjust it right from there, and then you've got to go to the menu to set the flash output. So that's annoying. But never mind the flash, because this is the thing that I actually want to show. When you set a timer, have you ever had where you have a timer on for one picture and then you go to take the next picture and you don't want the timer anymore, but you forgot to turn it off? So when you go to press the shutter button, you've got to wait 10 seconds, and so on previous models you couldn't cancel it. As you can see now, it says menu to cancel it, so you can press menu and cancel. So I found that that was just a small thing, but a nice little feature that they threw in.